Look at another man, if you will. That was Paul. Look at Hebrews 10. I'm sorry, Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11. There's a man in here that while we're thinking about suffering, and we have, as far as we're concerned, suffering is always a negative aspect for many of us who have gone through suffering. And everybody either has already or will. If you're a child of God, you will. I'm not here to paint a picture of idealism to you. You understand? And saying to you that you can get through this Christian walk without ever suffering. But I'll just start here at the first verse. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. By faith Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it he, being dead, yet speaketh. By faith Enoch was translated, that he should not see death, and was not found, because God had translated him. For before his translation he had this testimony, that he pleased God. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. By faith Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world, and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. By faith Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. By faith he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which had foundations, whose builder and maker is God. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead, so many as the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable. Notice, these all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from which they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. For now they desire a better country that is a heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God. For he hath prepared for them a city. By faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said, that in Isaac shall all seed be called, accounting that God was able to raise him up from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. By faith Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. By faith Jacob, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph, and worshiped, leaning upon the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel and gave commandment concerning his bones. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. By faith. Are you listening?
Yes.
Moses, when he was come to years, are you listening?
Yes.
Refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Are you listening?
Yeah.
Choosing rather to suffer. Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. Ooh, my Lord. Here is a whole litany, list, roll call of the faithful.
Yes.
People that had obstacles. I mean, in the midst of their suffering, in the midst of their trials, in the midst of their tribulations, in the midst of their valley experiences, painful experiences, disappointing experiences, folk crushing in on them, literally taking their lives, taking everything they had. In the midst of all of that, they held on. They endured.
Yes.
They suffered long. The makros, thumia. The Greek kind of suffering. In the Hebrew saying it, they suffered forever. It was like forever, no matter how long it would take. Because they considered, in that one last verse says here that what? For he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. But here's another man that comes out of all of these lists that we have. He does not suffer because, or just because he's put in that position. He was not put in that position to suffer. He was put in a comfortable position. Born, so to speak, with a silver spoon in his mouth. Raised up in the king's palace by the king's daughter. Next in line to become Pharaoh's or Egypt's Pharaoh. So that he could tell his servants to go and they would have to go. Come and they would have to come. Do this and they would have to do that. Kill him and they would have to kill him. Here is a man that was in line for all of that kind of power and prestige, and yet he looked at that and he looked at the other side of that. He saw the suffering. It was not as though he did not have a first-hand look at what the suffering was like. Because he saw his brethren suffering in the fields. Suffering, bringing the stones. Suffering, bringing bricks, making bricks. Sometimes